This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, hello, there's Jeff Cutter, and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, November 26th, in the year 2000, the Grey Cup happened in 2000. It was the BC Lions and the Montreal Alouettes, and it's like, well, that's a boring Grey Cup. Well, you would be wrong. You would be so freaking wrong. Because the reason why I'm doing the 2000 BC Lions, they won the Grey Cup as seen in the picture, is simply because of how they got there and all that. So it's the Grey Cup playoffs. The Montreal Alouettes and the Calgary Stampeders are the best team in each division. So it looks like it's going to be Calgary hosting Calgary got the Grey Cup. They would be hosting it and playing in it against Montreal, who have come a long way from their time in Baltimore. As you should know about the Alouettes, they were a key CFL team, but financial difficulties in the 1980s made them fold. And in 1994, Baltimore came into the CFL as part of the CFL's U.S. expansion, which flopped. Baltimore was the only U.S. team that they took seriously. The Baltimore team, after the CFL decided to say no more U.S. teams, and with the fact that the NFL was coming back to Baltimore, they sold the franchise to Montreal, and Montreal got their CFL team for the first time in 9 years. And Montreal came close to getting to the Grey Cup so many times, but finally they were looking good. So anyway, the Alouettes were the top team in the East, Calgary the best team in the West. In the Grey Cup playoffs, Winnipeg, who got into the tournament with a 6-10-1 mark, thinking 6-10-1, 7-10-1, sorry, well, they played 18 games. That's pathetic. Well, given the fact that it was supposed, remember, the top three teams in each division got in. The top team, Montreal and Calgary, got byes into the conference finals, if you will. Hamilton would take on Winnipeg, and Edmonton would take on BC. So Winnipeg, by an inch over the Argos, got into the playoffs. Winnipeg shocked Hamilton in Hamilton, winning 22-20, which meant that Winnipeg would be going to Stade Olympique. No, not Stade Olympique, sorry, McGill Stadium, to take on the Alouettes in the division final. The BC Lions, who were 8-10 and got in because Saskatchewan were just full of shit, if you will, went to Edmonton to take on the Eskimos, and it was expected to be Edmonton to beat BC and then face Calgary's Battle of Alberta in the West. Unfortunately, the Lions somehow, in some way, went to Edmonton and beat them 34-32. Montreal would crush Winnipeg 35-24 in the division finals. In the Eastern final, the Western finals saw BC go into Calgary, where the Grey Cup was going to be played, and beat the Stampeders by 2 touchdowns. The Lions were below 500, but no matter. Montreal might win it, and as an Alouettes fan, I was happy as punch. So the Grey Cup happened in front of 43,000 people. But guess who were actually the halftime performance? Nice. So anyway, BC had a 1-0 lead. Remember, in Canadian football, you can get a point if you miss a field goal, but the team cannot run it out of the end zone. They have to concede 1 point. This was vital that in the first quarter, David Allen, the legendary quarterback of the BC Lions and of football in general, made it 8-0 with a touchdown run. Terry Baker kicked the field goal to make it 8-3, and in the second quarter, there was a single by Bazzaglia. But then he kicked the field goal to make it 12-3 BC at the half. But the Alouettes came back thanks to Jock Climbey's touchdown catch from Anthony Calvillo, 12-10 after 3 quarters. The fourth quarter was hectic. Robert Drummond got a touchdown run, and the Lions were up 19-10. Montreal did kick a field goal to make it 19-13, and then David Allen ran for a touchdown. They missed 2 points. It was now a 12-point lead with 11 minutes left. However, Mike Pringle scored a touchdown to make it 25-20. And then Louis Paseglu, with 1:25 left, kicked a field goal to make it 28-20. It looked good for BC. Montreal needed a touchdown and a 2-point convert. But then Cavilla hit Ben Cahoon with a nice touchdown pass. And it was 28-26. Montreal had to go for 2 because, they needed the tie to score. Unfortunately, Cavilla made a mistake and threw the ball over the head of Thomas Haskins. The Alouettes thought there was a pass interference call, but no, that didn't happen. Montreal went for the onside kick, and they botched it. So the BC Lions, despite being 8-10 and below 500, actually shocked the world and lost the game. So anyway, BC did it. Sean Millington was named the most valuable Canadian, and Robert Drummond was named the MVP. Now, it's hard to believe, but yeah, the MVP and the most valuable Canadian sometimes are not the same players. Anyway, BC did it. They won the Grey Cup for first time in 6 years. And Louis Pasaglia, the great kicker for the BC Lions, who played for the BC organization all his 25-year career, decided to hang her up. So he did it. He played 25 years in the CFL, and he was an icon for the BC Lions. I think he only played for BC. He had to have. Yeah, he played BC and all that. So, yeah, he was a BC All-Star and legend and all that. He did what he could. Anyway, this was, as I said, this was the first time the Alouettes, after being reactivated after the move from Baltimore, got to the Grey Cup. Their last appearance as a city in Montreal was 1979 when they lost to Edmonton. It was amazing. The BC Lions had a losing record and still made it to the playoffs because, top 3 teams and all that. So the BC Lions pulled off one of the greatest Cinderella moves around and won the Grey Cup. Kind of pissing me off, but, that's what happens. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.